In this video, I've got some miscellaneous advanced tips for your cross and F2L solutions. Okay, so here I've got a couple of quick specific tips for one-handed cross and F2L, and in the following video, so the next video after this, I go into far more detail about edge orientation during F2L, which is kind of my main technique and main focus during one-handed solving, but I've got a couple of miscellaneous tips here in this video. So the first tip that I can offer for the cross is in the 3x3 videos I talked about your cross solution doesn't necessarily need to be move optimal as long as it's speed optimal. So, if you do a 5 move cross and you can execute that solution faster than you can execute the 4 move solution, then it probably makes more sense to do the 5 move solution, not thinking about F2L pairs in that case. Here, I would say in one-handed solving, it's even more important to have a focus on speed optimal solutions. So, for example, if we have this very easy cross, we've got these two pieces, this one and this one. For two-handed solving, the clear, obvious solution is just do a U2, R prime, D2, F, like that. But for one-handed, doing a U2 and then a D2 and then an F move as well is quite awkward to execute one-handed, and so we can do a slightly nicer solution which takes 5 moves, but in my opinion is a better solution to do for one-handed solving. So it would just go something like this. So R prime, D2, and then to insert this one, wide R, U prime, wide R prime. So very straightforward finger tricks, no rotations and no regrips at all. Also, another thing is that it's a little bit less important to try and look ahead for the first pair in one-handed. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying that your primary focus first in your inspection time should be on devising a cross solution that's really nice to finger trick, and then only after that should you focus on looking for your first pair. So focus on the finger trick ability of your cross solution, and then if you have time, certainly look for your first pair, but it's not the main focus in one-handed. Another thing to keep in mind during our F2L is, let's say that we've solved these two right-hand slots of our F2L and we need to solve the 2 slots in the front left and back left, and we have both of these edges oriented. So what that means is that we can use, for example, U and L moves just to move them into their place. So we've got this one, the red sticker matches up with the red center, and we can just place it there, and here we can just do a UL to place that edge there. So in these situations, we realize that we don't actually need to rotate beyond just doing a Z move, because we won't have to rotate to insert a F2L pair here, or rather your solution shouldn't involve any rotations from this point onwards. So we've got these 2 edges oriented. What you should do now is obviously just do a Z move, and then we need to choose one of these 2 pairs to insert. Let's say we go for this one first, kind of an arbitrary choice, but we'll go with this one. So we'll do an R, U, R2, U prime, and then insert it into the back. And then while we're doing that, it's important to actually get used to looking ahead with your F2L, with your cross and F2L on the left. So whilst you're doing that, you need to be practice looking ahead on the right hand face here. So whilst we were doing that F2L pair, something like this. So whilst we're doing that one, we need to be looking ahead for this edge and this corner, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to this because you're used to actually looking ahead around the top face. But while you're doing that, maybe tilt it slightly and look ahead as to what's happening with this piece and this piece while you're solving this F2L pair. So I'm solving that, edge ends up here, corner ends up back here, and then you don't need to actually do a Z prime to put your cross on the bottom. You can stay in this orientation and then just complete those 2 without actually undoing undoing the Z and looking ahead again, because you've seen where these pieces end up when you were doing this back left pair. So then just go ahead and insert that on, and then you can undo and then work on your last layer. Okay, so here are a couple of quick ways to insert F2L pairs without a rotation. So let's say we have this pair and it belongs in the back right slot like this, and it's back here and it's connected. What we can do, instead of rotating and then doing U, R, U prime, R prime, we can do something like this. So wide R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, wide R, like that. So let's undo that. So the wide R prime kind of shifts this side like this, so that we've got the cross on the back now, and then U prime, R, U, R prime pairs up this F2L pair with this edge, and then the wide R finishes the F2L. We can use a similar algorithm for the front F2L case. So let's say we have an F2L pair like this, and we don't want to rotate and insert it into the back or rotate and insert it like that. What we can do is do a wide R, U, R prime, U prime, R, wide R prime, like that. And it'll be even easier to see what we're doing here. So wide R brings these pieces up to the front, U, R prime, U prime, R, pairs up this edge with this F2L pair, and wide R prime puts them back into the bottom. So speaking more generally, because you're turning slower in one-handed solving and you can have slightly better look ahead, then this enables you to do, I guess, a little bit more multi-slotting and influencing of pieces for cases that aren't so good in two-handed solving. And yeah, because you have better look ahead, you might see more opportunities to do this, as opposed to in two-handed solving where you're kind of just, really just trying to turn as fast as possible, or you're turning quite fast in F2L and you might not see things like this. So let's say we have this F2L pair here and we've got these two as well. In two-handed solving, I guess the default thing anyway is just to do, move that one here and insert it. But what we can do is if we're turning slightly slower in one-handed and we have to do a rotation, then that enables us to see that, okay, we can insert this one slightly differently to affect this F2L pair. So if we do a U, R, U prime, R prime, U, what that does is moves this corner down to the bottom and moves this edge over to here. And then we've got this case where we can do an R to pair these two up, U2 to put these two in, R2, and notice that finger trick I did for the R2 there was pushing that down and then pushing that back up. So I started here, my pinky, and I double turned there, then U-R to insert that one into the back. So yeah, you can do a little bit more multi-slotting when you're turning one-handed. As I mentioned at the start of this video, my main technique or focus during my F2L for one-handed solving is orienting the last layer edges, and also there's a slight focus on orienting F2L edges during the F2L. And I kind of take quite a freestyle approach to doing this throughout my entire F2L. I'll be covering how I do this in the next video, as well as in the example solves later in the module.